WWE NXT is on the road to Battleground, and last night's edition continued to set the stage for the event. Natalya and Carmen Petrovic fought Shayna Baszler and Lola Vice, hoping to put this rivalry behind them. The next challenger for Oba Femi's North American Championship would be determined in a triple threat match between Wes Lee, Josh Briggs, and Joe Coffey, who returned with a vicious attack last week. In the second night of qualifiers for the Women's North American Championship ladder match, Thea Hale finally got her hands on Fallon Henley, while Jada Parker hoped to punch her ticket against Brinley Reese. This was certain to be an exciting night of action with the best in NXT looking to make their mark. Hey there, welcome everybody to a special edition of Wednesday Night Madness. I am your guest host, Anthony Florio. I am sitting in tonight for good old MF Michael Fletcher. Unfortunately, MF a little under the weather this evening, but he will be back with us tomorrow night. We're going to have a special edition of TXN Sports World. We'll get into that in a little bit. But for the night, I am joined by the Phenom, Michael Bullock. And tonight, what we're going to do NXT. We're going to get into AEW Dynamite, the go-home show for Double or Nothing. And we will also have Game 1 of the Celtics, of the latest installment of the Celtics Chat. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. All I can say is, what a game. And we will get into that at the end. But first, let's start it off with NXT. And we started it off with a match. We had a qualifier match, the latest North American Championship qualifier match, as it was Thea Hale with Chase U in her corner, squaring off against Fallon Henley. Fallon Henley wins the match in 10 minutes and 29 seconds. Hey, got to give this about 3 to 3.25 stars. I mean, this was a fun opener between two of NXT's most polished performers. The finish came up a little fast, but the two got the time needed to tell their story. Henley needed to win, finally earning a singles title shot and solidifying her recent heel turn. It's a shame that Thea Hale had to lose, though, as she would have been a perfect addition to the ladder match also. There's no reason this should be anything more than the first part of a rivalry that can go for months to come. It will be important for both to ramp up the intensity for the future bouts. Henley grabbed the steel chair. Ridge Holland pulled it away from her, but the referee only saw him with the chair and ejected all the members of Chase U. And then after the match was over, Jasmine Nix laid out Thea Hale with a Pele kick. And then backstage, Ridge Holland and Riley Osborne had an argument. Andre Chase broke it up and said, you two are going to fight on next week's show. And that is confirmed. Next week, Ridge Holland will go one-on-one with Riley Osborne. And Jasmine Nix showed Fallon Henley respect on her way out of the building. Very good way to start the show. 3 to 3.25 stars. So not much more to say. Michael Bullock, Fallon Henley punching her ticket to that Women's North American Championship ladder match at Oluka and Lash Legend. And we'll add another guest to that list later on.
Yeah, I mean, a big win for Fallon Henley. And, now she punches her ticket to NXT Battleground for the opportunity to become the first ever women's NXT North American champion. So, and this is a huge opportunity for her. So, I'll give this about 2.5 to 3 for the effort here. I mean, nice win for her, and it could lead to something bigger. But we're gonna find out later on who's gonna be added to it. So there's really nothing more for me to say. It's yours for you.
All right. So with that, we move on to our next match. A battle for the NXT Tag Team Championships. The champions, Nathan Frazier and Axiom, defending the titles against Channing Stacks Lorenzo and Luca Crucifino of the D'Angelo family. Winners of the match, 10 minutes and 33 seconds, and still the NXT Tag Team Champions, Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Michael Bullock, a lot of craziness in this one. No quarter catch crew interfering, attacking Tony D'Angelo. And then after the match was over, the Good Brothers laying out the champs. So a lot to make of it here, but the champs stay the champs. 10:33.
Yeah, 3 stars for me on this one. The champs stay the champs. I mean, there was no doubt about it. There was no way they were going to have Frazier and Axiom lose here. I mean, but yeah, now they got a bigger challenge looks ahead of them, and it looks like the Good Brothers are going to be next in line to challenge them. So yeah, there's really nothing more to say. It is yours, Florida.
Another 3 to 3.25 star effort here. Solid tag team match without much drama. While Stacks was working hard to keep up with the champions, he and Crucifino are not title contenders by any stretch yet. This did continue to build up multiple angles. No Quarter Catch crew is still going after the family, and the champions need to finally fight the OC. Earlier in the night, Frazier and Axiom agreed to give Stacks and Crucifino a title shot. Axiom sent Crucifino into the grip of Stacks and then clotheslined him, pushing Stacks to unintentionally DDT Crucifino. And then Gallows and Anderson laid out the champions after the match. So not much more to say on that. 3 to 3.25 stars once again. Number one, triple threat, number one contender match for the North American title. Wes Lee versus Josh Briggs versus Joe Coffey. Now, keep in mind, Ivar was supposed to be in this match, but Ivar was taken out, injured at the hands of Gallus, and because of that, Ivar out indefinitely with this serious injury. So that led to Ava adding Joe Coffey into the mix. Winner of actually, I should say winners of the match in 10 minutes and 51 seconds, Wes Lee and Joe Coffey with a double pin on Josh Briggs. And because of this, Wes Lee and Joe Coffey will both face Obafemi for the North American Championship in a triple threat matchup at Battleground on June 9th at the UFC Apex. Well, 3.25 to 3.5 stars for this. I mean, awkward, contrived finish aside, this was by far the fight of the night up until this point, even though both of the other matches were also good. These three men wailed on each other. Joe looked great in his first action back, while Wes Lee was the obvious star of the action. The right answer was for Lee to get a solo opportunity against Obafemi, but if NXT wants to extend that match to a later date, the triple threat will be a great Battleground match. Femi remains a great champion, and no one should take the title off of him anytime soon, not even Wes Lee. In a backstage interview, Gallus warned everyone that the group was doing whatever was needed to get noticed. Obafemi joined commentary for this one. He made clear that he did not care who won. Josh Briggs nearly took a stacked pinfall win after chokeslamming Lee on the Joe. And General Manager Ava clarified to Femi that he would defend in a triple threat at Battleground. The champion did not look pleased. He was definitely pissed off about it. But it is what it is. So 3.25, 3.5. And Michael Bullock, well, we have two winners, Wes Lee and Joe Coffey. A double pin on Briggs. And now Wes Lee and Joe Coffey will go on to challenge Obafemi in a triple threat for the North American Championship at the Battleground. 10:51, the time of the fall.
Yeah, 3.5. I mean, obviously, Ava had a tough decision to make. I mean, obviously, this was obviously the right decision because if you picked one over the other, one person's going to be happy with the decision, and then you got someone else who's probably not going to be happy. So that's why she went with Joe Coffey and Wes Lee being declared the winners and making it a triple threat match. So yeah, so we'll wait and see what happens with that. So nothing more to say. So let's move on, Florio.
All right. Next up is the second women's North American title qualifying ladder match qualifier, as it was Jada Parker squaring off against Brittany Reese. And Jada Parker wins the match. She wins it in just north of 5 minutes. It was 4 minutes and 52 seconds. Bullock, I know, obviously, we don't like to talk about the short matches, but in this case, only because of the stipulation here and the stakes in it. 4:52, Jada Parker now joins Sol Ruka, Lash Legend, and Fallon Henley in that North American Championship ladder match for the women at Battleground.
I'll give it about 1 to 1.5. If this was like a normal regular match, we wouldn't talk about it, but because of what's at stake, so that's why we have to talk about it. So, yeah, Jada Parker now has an opportunity too, so I'm not going to waste any more time on this. It's your spoiler.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Brinley Reese looked poised to pick up the most important win of her career, but Idris Anafi and Malik Blade seemed to bring the bad luck as their arrival set up Jada Parker to hit the running hip attack to win. Parker. Oh, okay. Parker has been a clear priority in NXT's recent booking. The result of this match was a foregone conclusion as Reese has lost every contest so far. However, NXT is using Reese regularly for a reason. She was arguably the more impressive competitor throughout this bout. Both have yet to show they are ready for a major push, but they have clearly improved from their early work in the women's breakout tournament. Too much of this match was focused on what Anafi and Blade were doing. They are regularly featured, but are hopelessly lost in the current NXT booking scene. 2.25, 2.5. And backstage, Anafi and Blade told Reese that they would not be in her corner due to their recent bad luck. And Anafi and Blade were shown backstage arguing during the match until they decided to head to ringside. And that was that. So 2.25, 2.5. Next up on the fight card, Lexis King. Lexis King, we didn't know who his opponent was going to be going in. And then Mr. Stone came out, and you're thinking, oh, it's Mr. Stone again? But no, it's not. Dante Chen from NXT Level Up. And Dante Chen wins the match in 4 minutes and 58 seconds, just about 5 minutes here. Dante Chen picks up the win after a distraction by Mr. Stone. And, NXT's first Singaporean superstar has traveled a lengthy road to get a second chance on NXT television after first debuting in September of 2021. And hopefully he is ready for the big time. The first match was not the best sign, though. His entrance promised big action, but Chen mostly got beat down until he snuck away with a pinfall. With Von Wagner gone, Mr. Stone needs a new project. Chen could use the help, but Stone does not have an impressive track record of elevating talent despite his ability to deliver a promo. So we're not going to waste too much time on this. I'm gonna throw this out, even though, hey, big win for Dante Chen. I'll give him that, but the match was really nothing to speak about, anyways. So we're just gonna move on. Then we had an in-ring segment. The NXT champion Trick Williams, he cut the promo, interrupted by pretty much all of Metaphor except for Noam Dar. Noam Dar was not out there. You had Oro Mensah, you had Jakara Jackson, and you had Lash Legend out there. And then all hell breaks loose. Gallus then shows up. And then from there, Javon Evans comes out to make the save for the champions. So I got to be honest with you. This was a waste of time that made a poorly built title scene only more chaotic. NXT has not done any good for Trick so far as NXT champion. Noam Dar hardly comes off as a threat to the title holder. And Gallus, not Metaphor, got the upper hand on the champion. While Joe Coffey said this attack would explain why he was interrupting the NXT champion and challenging for the North American Championship, nothing was made clear by the end. NXT has too many talented wrestlers to overuse Gallus in multiple title scenes at the same time. A vignette teased that Wendy Chu may be finally returning to NXT. And Roxanne Perez ran down the women's division in a pre-tape promo, and General Manager Ava said the Prodigy's next opponent would be determined next week on NXT. Main event of the evening, the big women's tag team match we were all waiting for, as it was Natalya and Carmen Petrovic squaring off against Lola Vice and Shayna Baszler. Carmen Petrovic and Natalya win the match, 11 minutes and 10 seconds. I can honestly say you can make an argument that this was the fight of the night. Well, maybe not, but Natalya and Carmen Petrovic were the better team in this match. After a communication breakdown, Petrovic hit a heart attack with the boat and picked up a pin over Lola Vice. Shayna Baszler tried to help Lola up afterward, but Lola hit Shayna with a roundhouse kick. And then the Queen of Spades responded with the Kirifuda clutch. Brawl breaks out as officials tried to separate them. Ava announced they would have a match at Battleground. And Shayna Baszler says, we're not having a regular match. We're having an NXT Underground match. Oh, daddy. While this was not the best fight of the night, it was structured to feel special to the point that the booking was more important than the in-ring action. Credit to NXT officials for building this feud steadily to the point that Petrovic could main event an episode this early in her career. This match made Carmen Petrovic especially look more like a star than anything else she has done. She still is not completely ready in the ring, but she can continue to shine working with Natalya. The Queen of Spades continues to look more comfortable in NXT than on the main roster, and she could steal the show at Battleground against Lola Vice in that Women's Underground match. Baszler warned Lola Vice to focus on the fight rather than dancing before their match. The Queen of Spades demanded Vice keep the action rolling. Instead, Vice danced as she went for a sharpshooter and got countered. And that's pretty much all I can say on that. So this was a solid 3.25, teetering on 3.5 star match. And not much more to say. Michael Bullock, Carmen Petrovic, and Natalya picking up the win over Lola Vice and Shayna Baszler, 11-10.
Yeah, 3.25, 3.5. I mean, yeah, big win for Petrovic and Natalya. But like you said, the big story was Shayna Baszler was going to help Lola Vice up, which she did. But Lola with the spinning kick on her, and like you said, during the match, Shayna warned Lola not to dance and basically focus on the match. Well, Lola basically didn't do it. And you want to know why Lola Vice didn't listen? Because it's her ego. Her ego is so damn big, it needs its own damn zip code, a la Jerry the King Lawler. And then Lola, like you said, turning on her, saying that I never needed you, and proceeded to dance again. And yeah, Shayna finally had enough, and that's when they brawled. So yeah, I think Lola Vice is about to get a nice lesson at NXT Battleground in NXT Underground. So yeah, nothing more to say on it. And as far as my overall thoughts on this NXT, I'll give this about a 6. I mean, yeah, you had some good matches. I mean, there were still some questionable decisions here, but all in all, it was an average show. So 6 for me. It's yours, Florio.
I'm going to be a little more generous. I'm going to give it about 6.5 to 7, to be honest with you. But then again, last night's show was a taped show, to be honest. The first hour of last night's NXT should be the norm for the brand going forward. Longer matches with focused stories should be the focus over quick, messy squashes. Josh Briggs, and Joe Coffey was a very good match that could have main evented the show. The actual main event was a solid future star showcase that may indicate how far NXT is willing to push Lola Vice and Carmen Petrovic in the long term. Fallon Henley versus Thea Hale, as well as Nathan Frazier and Axiom versus The Family, both delivered while furthering key feuds. Unfortunately, there was the middle lull of the night, especially around the Lexis King match with Dante Chen. It also has not helped the program that both Trick Williams and Roxanne Perez seem lost following a WWE draft that took away many of their most natural title challengers. At least the depth of the NXT women's division is obvious, but the men's division needs some talent to step up in a big way. NXT is on a solid track, but the main event scene cannot continue to lag behind the growing mid-card picture. So this was easily 6.5 to 7 out of 10 for me. So So with that, we're now going to go into AEW Dynamite, the go-home show for Double or Nothing. It was live in Bakersfield, California. And just bear with me for a moment as I get my stuff set up on that. Bear with me, please. All right. And we were live from Bakersfield, California, and let's set it up. We are just days away from Double or Nothing, but there was still some booking decisions to be made heading into the pay-per-view, including who would face Chris Jericho for the FTW Championship. Let's take a look at what happened during tonight's go-home Dynamite before Double or Nothing. Started it off with a tag team match. Orange Cassidy and Will Ospreay squaring off against Trent Beretta and the AEW International Champion Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong and Trent Beretta win the match in 12 minutes and 50 seconds. 3.5 stars. What unfolded here was an energetic and chaotic bout. All four men put in a lot of effort to make this a solid opening match, and the commentary team did a great job addressing the storylines and some past interactions between men who found themselves as partners. Wardlow showed up and took out Will Ospreay, paving the way for Roderick Strong to pin Orange Cassidy for the win. The beatdown of Ospreay continued by the Undisputed Kingdom, while Trent Beretta kept going after Orange Cassidy on the ramp. The aerial assassin was busted open while Orange Cassidy was choked out. As usual, the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions Mike Bennett and Matt Taven were at ringside with Roderick Strong. The Tope Suicida sequence early in the bout was great. Trent Beretta has a really good spear. He takes care of his opponent, but still makes it look brutal. 3.5, teetering on 3 3/4 of a star. Very good opening match. So Michael Bullock, Roderick Strong and Trent Beretta pick up the win here over Orange Cassidy and Will Ospreay. Roderick Strong pinning Orange Cassidy in 12 minutes and 50 seconds. And based on the booking here, you got to believe Will Ospreay is winning the title now.
Oh, there's no doubt about it in my mind. I think Will Ospreay is going to come out the new international champion. 3.5 stars, definitely a good jump to it. I mean, you had a lot of chaos. I mean, you had Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta brawling as the match got underway. But with the booking here, we're definitely going to have a new AEW International Champion in Will Ospreay. So 3.5, teetering on 3 3/4. So let's move on.
All right, Bullock, I will set you up for the next match. It was that 3-way eliminator match to determine Chris Jericho's next challenger for the FTW title at Double or Nothing. It was Hook versus Brian Keith versus Katsuyori Shibata. And go figure, just like what we saw last night on NXT, we had not one, but 2 winners. Hook and Katsuyori Shibata both win the match. 6 minutes and 29 seconds. They tap out Brian Keith. They both made Brian Keith submit to their respective submission holds. So, because of this, Bullock, we're now going to see Chris Jericho versus both Hook and Shibata in a 3-way match for the FTW title at Double or Nothing.
Yeah, Chris Jericho's now going to have to deal with 2 people, and Hook, the one who he's had to deal with, and Shibata. So he's definitely going to have his hands full here. So I'll give this about maybe 2.5 on this one. I mean, I would have loved to see a little more out of this one, but it is what it is. So 2.5. It's yours, Florian.
I'll give it about 2.5 for the effort. A lot of triple threat matches will end up being a series of one-on-one exchanges while they take turns selling, but all 3 competitors were heavily involved from start to finish. It helped make this more entertaining than the average 3-way. Brian Keith ended up tapping out to Shibata and Hook at the same time, so Hook and Shibata were both declared the winner, which means Chris Jericho will defend the FTW Championship against both men on Sunday night at Double or Nothing. All 3 men hitting suplexes one after the other was a fun moment, and Shibata used the less traditional way to apply the figure 4. I'm going to give it a straight 2.5 for this. So we move on. We do have a cutout. Konosuke Takeshita versus Matt Sydal. Konosuke Takeshita wins the match. 1 minute and 55 seconds. We're not even going to waste any time on that. This bout was already predictable, but giving Sydal the enhancement talent entrance made it even more obvious. Sydal got a little bit of offense, but this was a glorified squash, and Takeshita picked up an easy win. Next up, we had, well, I don't have the time of the fall on this one, but I believe it was another short match. The AEW World Heavyweight Champion Swerve Strickland squaring off against Nick Wayne of the Patriarchy, and Swerve Strickland wins the match. I don't have a time of the fall to work with here. These two know each other very well, so they were not holding back. We saw some stiff strikes and big bumps without either man taking any unnecessary risks before the pay-per-view. Even though this was fun, it wasn't exactly competitive most of the time. Swerve put on a dominant performance before getting the win, which makes sense before a title bout. Christian Cage and Swerve ended up fighting outside the arena after the match. The number one contender narrowly escaped a brutal chair shot and ran away. And Christian was ready to run. It was ready to drive off. He stole another man's car.
But guess who's back?
My man, Prince Nana. Yes.
Oh yeah, he's back. So I would just love to do that dance now.
He cut him off. He cut off Christian at the path, and then Swerve and Christian they threw down, and they had a big old brawl outside the building. I believe it's called the Mechanics Life Arena in Bakersfield. I know it's Mechanics something arena down there, but nonetheless, we're not going to dive too much more into it. It was a bit of an elongated squash, honestly. So, we're definitely going to get into this next match though. Kyle O'Reilly 1-on-1 with Malachi Black. Malachi Black wins the match in 10 minutes and 7 seconds. And, well, I will say this. Both of these men incorporate a lot of kickboxing techniques into their wrestling, so they were treating this almost like a shoot fight as they got started. The way they worked helped set this apart from everything else on the show. Despite the entire bout being even, Black was able to get the victory with his patented spinning kick. This was one of the fights of the night because it felt so unique and gave two great performers a chance to shine in their own style. After some flickering lights, tons of blood dropped. After some flickering lights, tons of blood dropped from the rafters onto Black. Adam Copeland addressed him from the big screen and told him to be careful what he wishes for. It was kind of weird seeing Black without any eye makeup, and the spot when both men went for a knee to the gut at the same time was timed well. Kyle O'Reilly is one of the best at making every strike look real. Black is good too, but O'Reilly is a step above most in that department. And I got to give this somewhere between 3.25 and 3.5 for the effort. But Michael Bullock, what was most notable after the match, for the first time in AEW, we saw that vintage Brood bloodbath that we saw so many times during the Attitude Era in WWE with when Adam Copeland was Edge, along with Christian and Gangrel when they were the Brood, with those bloodbaths. And this time Malachi Black, the latest victim of that vintage Brood bloodbath, even though Malachi Black did defeat Kyle O'Reilly 10 minutes and 7 seconds in a very good match.
Yeah, this was a very good match. I mean, 3.25, 3.5. I mean, this was the kind of match that I like here. And basically, yeah, I mean, obviously you want to give Malachi the momentum going into his barbed wire steel cage match against Adam Copeland for the TNT title. And yeah, we got the Brood bloodbath for the first time in AEW. And yeah, I think Adam Copeland was channeling his inner Brood from the Attitude Era in WWE. So yeah, and like Adam Copeland said, careful what you wish for Malachi, and especially since he made this personal when he took the ring from Adam Copeland. So, so he brought out a side of Adam Copeland that he probably does not like. So, nothing more to say. It is yours.
All right, we move on to our next match. The AEW Women's World Champion Toni Storm teaming up with Mariah May. They went up against Saraya and Harley Cameron. Toni Storm and Mariah May had Luther in their corner. Saraya and Harley Cameron had Zach Knight in their corner. And the winners of the match, 9 minutes and 6 seconds, it was Toni Storm and Mariah May. Toni Storm with the Storm Zero on Harley Cameron for the win. But then after the match was over, Serena Deeb comes out and attacks both Mariah May, Toni Storm, and Mariah May, sending a message to the Timeless One ahead of their women's title showdown at Double or Nothing on Sunday night. So Michael Bullock, Storm and Toni Storm and Mariah May defeating the Outcasts in 9 minutes and 6 seconds. But then Serena Deeb getting some payback on the Timeless One. Bullock, are you there?
I forgot to unmute my mic. So, 2 3/4 of a star here on this one. I mean, obviously you want to give the champ some momentum going in, and she obviously taught the Outcast a little lesson here, and basically, basically showing why she never needed Saraya and especially the crazy woman Harley Cameron, which I still like to call her, and of course the one guy I don't want to mess with, and that's the one who was with the Outcast, Zach Knight, because he's one tough SOB, I'll say that. And yes, Serena Deeb coming out, getting some payback for what happened last week, and so we'll wait and see what happens when these two face off for the women's world title at Double or Nothing. So it is yours, Florida.
Yeah, 3 stars for this. This bout had a steady pace, and they made sure to sell a lot of the big moves instead of trying to pack in as many as possible. Even though she took the most damage, Harley Cameron really stood out here. She has looked better with each match she has and knows how to sell for her opponents well. The crowd gave them some "this is awesome" chants as all 4 women were fighting in the ring. Timeless Toni got the pin for her team, but her celebration was short-lived. Serena Deeb showed up and took out Toni Storm, Mariah May, and Luther with a chair and her high heel. Unsurprisingly, Saraya's jumping jack taunt got a reaction from the crowd. So there isn't much more to say on that. So with that, we move into our main event of the evening, as it was the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, squaring off against Satnam Singh. And the winner of the match, via disqualification, in 5 minutes and 1 second, it was Bryan Danielson. Outside interference from that damn Sanjay Dutt, along with Jay Lethal and the Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett. I mean, there's no question about it. This was without a doubt the worst fight of the night, and I never thought I would ever call a Bryan Danielson match a dud, but in this case, I have to. Look who he was in there with. Someone who had no business being in there.
And somebody who can't even wrestle himself out of a paper bag.
Yeah, where are the "you can't wrestle" chants for this guy instead of Khali? Ugh.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
And don't get me going on that little idiot Sanjay Dutt.
The main event of tonight's show was one of the biggest David versus Goliath matches we have seen in AEW. Bryan Danielson faced a literal giant when he stepped into the ring with Satnam Singh, who had his whole posse at ringside. The American Dragon started off strong with a series of kicks, but was quickly overpowered and brought out of the ring. And Dutt tried to set up the announce table for Singh, but Danielson recovered and began to build some momentum. Satnam Singh is still early in his career and limited by his size, but Danielson can get a good match out of almost anybody. So this was a little more enjoyable than some people probably expected it to be. Danielson used Singh's team, distracting the ref to his advantage for a low blow, but the big man brushed it off without much trouble. Once Singh was in the label lock, everybody attacked to cause a disqualification. The Bucks, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson eventually came out and gave Singh some money before attacking Danielson themselves. And then Darby Allin arrived and made the save with a flamethrower. Yes, you heard that right. The image of Bryan Danielson.
Who was the one that brought him?
The real executive. Even though we question a lot of things he does, the real man in charge, Tony Khan. So it was Tony Khan that gave Darby Allin the lift to the arena. The image of Bryan Danielson standing in front of Satnam Singh really showed the size disparity. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal haven't been on AEW television much recently, but we're at ringside for this. Singh no-selling Danielson's kicks and hitting a big chop was a good sequence. And Singh punching through the guitar, I'll give it up for him. That was a very impressive spot. But I'm sorry, this was a dud. This was the worst fight of the night. I never in my wildest dreams ever thought that I would ever rate a Bryan Danielson match a dud. But in this case, I have no choice. Again, look who he was in there with. Someone who had no business being in this match, being involved, let alone the main event of anything. This is how you main event a go-home show? Please, give me a break.
Yeah, you talk about ending the show with a whimper, and this was it.
Go-home show, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
So, dud for me. Bullock, I know you echo my sentiments. So,
yeah, I definitely give it a dud as well. I mean, this had no business being in the main event. I mean, I feel bad for Bryan Danielson. I mean, to me, a great wrestler like him, especially coming off of a great match against Will Ospreay, and this is what you give him going into Anarchy in the Arena? No. This man deserves way better than that, as far as I'm concerned.
Amen. And breaking, I'm sorry to interrupt, but breaking news, and Ranger fans, unfortunately, not good news, as the Florida Panthers have just defeated the New York Rangers 3-0 in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Panthers up 1-0, and if MF wasn't already sick, yeah, he's about to be even more so, especially after that. I mean, my God. Putrid performance by the Rangers. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Putrid. So, oh yeah, tomorrow night. I'm going to unleash hell tomorrow night. Believe you me.
Boy.
But, yeah. I absolutely did not like what I saw from the New York Rangers. The Florida Panthers, far and away, they outclassed them tonight in every aspect. Every aspect. So, but anyways, that's tomorrow. But right now, let's get into our overall thoughts. Michael Bullock, you lead off on this, and then we'll get into a much more positive Celtics chat.
Yeah, I'll give this about a 7 when it comes to this. I mean, that ending definitely left a bitter taste in my mouth with the main event, which
Brutal.
had no business being the main event. I mean, but you had some other good matches, but yeah, that main event really rubbed me the wrong way. So 7 for me. It's yours, Florio.
Yeah, 7 out of 10 for me as well. Tonight's Double or Nothing Go Home Dynamite addressed most of the feuds that will make up the pay-per-view card, but there was only a couple of notable matches and moments. Kyle O'Reilly versus Malachi Black was the best bell-to-bell performance we saw, but the most intriguing thing we saw all night was what came after it was over. Adam Copeland with the bloodbath all over Malachi Black was quite the scene and got people on social media excited for some possible Brood references in the near future. Sunday's pay-per-view has some potential bangers on the card, so we should be in for a fun weekend of graps. So I will give it a 7 out of 10 as well. So let's now get into the latest installment of the Celtics chat. And we are going to talk about last night, Game 1 of the NBA Eastern Conference Finals, as it was the Boston Celtics squaring off against the Indiana Pacers. The Celtics entered the playoffs expecting to get everyone's best shot. the Eastern Conference's top seed barely survived a tough one to open the Eastern Conference Finals. Jason Tatum scored 36 points, including 10 in overtime, after Jaylen Brown's game-tying three-pointer with 6 seconds remaining in regulation, and Boston rallied just in time for a 133-128 overtime victory over the Indiana Pacers last night. Jrue Holiday added a season-high 28 points, and Jaylen Brown finished with 26. And we are now going to get into the key numbers here. Oop, hit the wrong button. All right. Bear with me for a moment as I, keeping an eye on quite a few things here. So just want to get everything up and going here. We're also keeping an eye on the NBA's Western Conference Finals, and we'll address the breaking news on that in just a moment. But let's get into this. Like I said, for the Boston Celtics, it was Jason Tatum, 36 points. He had a double-double, 36 points and 12 rebounds. Jrue Holiday could not have picked a better time to have his best performance of this playoff year so far. 28 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. Jaylen Brown, 26 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists of his own. Both men also had 3, and all 3 guys, Tatum, Holiday, and Brown, all had 3 steals each. Al Horford, 15 points and 6 rebounds. Derek White, 15 points, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds. Also had a couple steals. Horford also had 3 blocks, by the way. And Peyton Pritchard with 8 off the bench, and Luke Cornett had 5 off the bench. For the Pacers, it was Pascal Siakam, double-double, 24 points and 12 rebounds. He also had 7 assists. Miles Turner, huge game for him, 23 points and 10 rebounds, double-double of his own. Tyrese Halliburton led the way with 25 points. He also had 10 assists. Obi Toppin with 15 off the bench. TJ McConnell, 13 off the bench. And Nesmith also had 14 points before fouling out of the game. The final numbers here, the team numbers here. Pacers shot 53.5% from the field. Celtics 47.5% from the field. Indiana was 13 of 35 from 3 for a 3-point percentage of 37%. Celtics 15 out of 45, 33% from 3. Pacers 9 of 10 from the free throw line, 90%. Celtics 24 out of 30, 80%. Rebounding edge, 13-10 offensive rebound edge to Boston, 34-30 defensive rebound edge for Indiana. Overall, 44-43 Indiana. Assists, Indiana 38, Boston 30. Celtics had 11 steals, Pacers had 8. Celtics 5 blocks, Pacers 4. Celtics committed 15 turnovers, Pacers committed 22 turnovers. And points off turnovers, Pacers had 32 points off turnovers, Celtics 21. Fast break points, 16-14 Boston. Points in the paint, 58-56 Boston. Celtics committed 15 fouls. Pacers committed 23 fouls, including 1 technical foul. Indiana led by as many as 5. Boston's largest lead was 13. But the Boston Celtics win game 1, 133-128 in overtime. Lead the series 1-0. Game 2 in right back at TD Garden tomorrow night. And there's nothing else more left to, and we'll get further into the series on Friday night as part of our crossover TXN Sports World and Talking Wrestling show. But nonetheless, Michael Bullock, come on in. I know you more than anybody. Out of all our friends who are Celtic fans, I know you more than anybody. We're on the edge of your seats from start to finish. I'm sure you were sweating.
Oh my gosh!
I'm sure you were sweating buckets and then some. I mean,
that would be an understatement.
But nonetheless, man, your Celtics 133-128, winning in overtime, a game that I personally rated a 5-star classic. And talking to our dear friend Brian Keenan earlier, he pulled a Dave Meltzer and he gave it an 8 to 10 star rating. That's how great he thought the game was.
Hey, it's hard to argue that. I mean, man, this was a game that, in my opinion, the Celtics had no business of winning because, but you have to give the Pacers credit. I mean, they basically, I knew after such a tough start it was going to be that they were going to find their way. And some of the shots that Tyrese Halliburton made, I mean, was just unreal. And yeah, I mean, but you also had, I mean, what Miles Turner did and Pascal Siakam. But yeah, I mean, for the Celtics, I mean, Jason Tatum with, like you said, 36 points, and Drew Holiday without a shadow of a doubt, his best performance, not only of the playoffs, but as a member of the Celtics. And what a time for him to do with 28 points. And then Jaylen Brown with the 3-pointer that tied the game to send it to overtime. I mean, what a shot. I mean,
Can you say answered prayer?
Yeah, and so much so you got a bang bang from Mike Breen. It's not too often you get two of those, two in a row, but when it's a big shot like that, you got it from him. And man, I mean, but the thing is, I mean, and here's the crazy thing, Florio. With 10 seconds left, the Indiana Pacers their chances of winning was 97%.
How much?
97%.
Yeesh.
Man, you want to talk about literally throwing it away. And to me, what do I always say, Florio, when it comes to turnovers?
It's been a long time since we talked about it.
Turnovers kill.
Oh, yes.
And the Pacers, I mean,
Hold on to that ball.
And they had two opportunities
to close
it out. And Tyrese Halliburton turned the ball over, but the one that really killed it, Pascal Siakam, they threw it to him and just couldn't get a grip on it, and that's what led to Jaylen Brown hitting the 3-pointer to send the game into overtime. And yeah, Tatum really came up big in the overtime period. And yeah, the Boston Celtics, you knew, like you said, we knew this was going to be a tough series against a team like Indiana. And what did I say to you, Florio, when we had our outing? We said this team had yet to be tested.
Yes.
Because most of their games they won by double digit this postseason.
This is true.
And I think they passed the test with this win. And like you said, game number 2 is tomorrow night. I mean, can the Celtics, I mean, yes, they won, but can they improve on some of these things? And can they take a 2-0 lead going to Indianapolis, Indiana on Saturday night? Or will the Indiana Pacers find a way to even up the series? Because, look, I'm not comfortable with saying that, hey, being up 2-0, yeah, it's a big advantage. But remember, the Knicks were up 2-0 on the Pacers, and look what happened. They came back and won the series. So
including that record-setting performance in Game 7.
Yeah, so you can't take anything for granted. So
no, indeed.
We'll see what happens come tomorrow night. And the other big breaking news we just got: the Dallas Mavericks go into Minnesota and take Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals.
108-105. Yes, the Dallas
108
Mavericks.
To 105. Man, the Dallas Mavericks, they just made a statement.
They've stolen the home court advantage.
Yeah, so unbelievable. So
huge win for them.
Yeah, all I can say is, and getting back to this, like I said, I think the Celtics can improve on some things, but I just think Tatum just continues to be himself, and of course, going into the game, Florio, the reports, especially from Adrian Wojnarowski, is that Kristaps Porzingis is targeted to return Monday night for Game 4.
Huge.
Yeah, but my question to you, And here's my question to you. If for some reason the Celtics were to go up 3-0 heading into that game, would you have Kristaps Porzingis return, or you'll be like, no, we got a comfortable lead. There's no need to rush him back.
That is tough. I mean, who's to say the Celtics will even be up 3-0?
No, I'm just asking you, what would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest. I'm torn. There's that part of me. There's that. You know, I'm competitive. You do know that, right? I mean, there's that competitive killer instinct side of me that wants to say all hands on deck, get the big man in there, shake off the rust. You don't want him to be too rusty, and you also want to have him possibly slam the door and drop the hammer. But at the same time, you don't want to. I mean, you don't want to rush him back too soon, because you want to make sure he's the number one priority. Is if and only if the Boston Celtics advance and go to the NBA Finals, you want to make sure that the big man is 100% for that series.
And even Stephen A. Smith makes a point. You really don't need him for this series, but if they were to somehow match up with the Minnesota Timberwolves, that's when you would need him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we'll find out when we get to that Monday night to see if A, what the situation is with the Celtics, and B, if Porzingis does actually play in Game 4. So, but right now, all the focus will be on Game 2 back at the TD Garden tomorrow night, and of course, it all starts, over on NBC Sports Boston. Actually, it starts with the Celtics post up with Drew Carter and Chris Forsberg, and then it's Celtics pregame live with Tom Giles, Eddie House, and Brian Scalabrine, and of course flip it back to postgame live with them afterwards, depending on what it is. But of course, nationally, it all starts with NBA Countdown with Malika Andrews, Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon, and I think Bob Myers.
Yes.
And then, of course, once again, Mike Breen, Doris Burke, JJ Redick, Lisa Salters back at it again. So, can't wait to see what happens. So, let's put a bow on this night, Florio.
Yes, indeed. A game for the ages. Hard to believe after the Celtics jumped out to that 12-0 lead. Almost a carbon copy of what they did against the Miami Heat in the opening game of the playoffs when they jumped out to a 14-0 lead to start it off. But somehow, some way, I mean, like Bullock said, the Celtics had no business winning this game. The Indiana Pacers should have won this game, honestly. But
you had to know that that the Pacers were going to come alive eventually.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that answered prayer of a three-pointer by Jaylen Brown to tie the game and send it to overtime. And another vintage game from Jason Tatum, as well as Jaylen Brown. Drew Holiday could not have picked a better time to have his best game of these playoffs so far, and also as a member of the Boston Celtics as well. So huge win for Boston. Even if they lose tomorrow, I mean, getting that one was huge. I mean, you did not want to go to Indiana down 2-0. And worst case scenario is it'll be a split when the series goes to Indiana for Game 3 on Saturday night. But best case scenario, can the Celtics somehow take a 2-0 lead up to Indiana? So we shall find that out. So 5-star classic of a game, or in Brian's words, 8 to 10 stars, a la Dave Meltzer. So yeah, it's hard to argue with that, because I can honestly say that was the game of the playoffs so far. I mean, a 5-star Shakespearean drama classic. It went from a dud to a 5-star classic, because it looked like the Celtics were going to blow them away when they jumped out to that 12-0 lead. And you're thinking, oh, here's a team that's Celtics looking like a team that had 5 days rest, whereas the Pacers look like a team coming off 1 day of rest. But no, credit to the Pacers, gallant effort. So we'll see what happens. Game 2 of that tomorrow night at TD Garden. And that will put the bow on this special edition of Wednesday Night Madness. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. We'll be back with you tomorrow night, right around this time tomorrow night for a special edition of TXN Sports World, as we will have the Game 1 edition of the Ranger Roundup. Unfortunately, that is not going to be fun, to be honest with you, after the Florida Panthers absolutely smashed the New York Rangers tonight 3-0 in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll also have the Game 2 edition of the Celtic Chat. Hopefully that'll be a positive thing as well. And then Friday night, a crossover edition of Talking Wrestling TXN and TXN Sports World. Well, from the TXN Sports World side, we will preview both conference finals in the NBA and in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then we'll also review Friday Night SmackDown. We'll also preview the King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view. And time permitting, we will have the Game 2 edition of the Ranger Roundup for the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers. And I'm going to tell you right now, this game coming up Friday night is without a doubt a must-win for the New York Rangers. They do not want to go to Florida down 2-0. They do not. So they better wake up in Game 2. Enough said. And then Saturday night, we will it'll be Talking Wrestling TXN over on the MEPS channel, as we will have our review of the King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view. We'll also preview the AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view, and time permitting, we'll have the Game 3 edition of the Celtic Chat for the Celtics and the Pacers. And then Monday night, we do it all over again with Ridiculously Raw, and then this show 1 week from tonight. So with that, that's it for this. So until tomorrow night for our special edition of TXN Sports World, this is Anthony Florio sitting in tonight for good old MF Michael Fletcher, for the Phenom Michael Bullock, and in spirit, the aforementioned good old MF Michael Fletcher. Feel better, MF. We hope to have you back with us tomorrow night. And of course, always and forever, the first lady of our show, the one and only Twisted Angel Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune Forest style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Thursday. And until tomorrow night, for the special TXN Sports World, you've been watching this special edition of Wednesday Night Madness right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. And remember, my friends, no matter what anyone tells you beyond anything else, wrestling is indeed actually real. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long, and bye, everybody, bye.